Hello and welcome to my review of the Warhammer 40,000 Codex Heretic Astartes Death Guard, or just the Death Guard Codex for short. This book will cost you £25. From the very start, I'll say that if you even have an inkling of Death Guard and you're on the fence, go out and buy this codex. It really lays the foundation for the whole army. It has a rich, thorough backstory. Death Guard have never had a codex before, their own sort of codex. I was on the fence with Death Guard. I even said in a couple of videos that I wasn't going to cover their releases. I've got so much going on with my Imperial army and the factions. I've got so many models that I'm working on, such as my Custodian Guard army and the new Primaris, as well as the sort of main force and Titan Legion and stuff like that. But I'm now in a position where I can cover all of the Death Guard releases. I'm very fortunate to do so, and that includes this codex. This book, on the fence, go out and get it, because it's a great book. It's got some juicy rules in here. I was really tempted with the Death Guard out of all the Chaos factions. The artwork is immense. It's a mix of old and new. You've got some Primaris fighting sort of Mortarion there. It's just incredible. You've got this sort of green sort of sludge and slime and toxic stuff sort of covering almost every page. It introduces you to the depthless horrors of Nurgle's chosen legion. It gives you a thorough backstory, some lovely artwork. I mean, look at that, them fighting Tau there. We've got Typhus with his destroyer hive. It tells you about their Death Guard. The once noble iconography has been despoiled when they fell to chaos. The wages of heresy. So it goes into Mortarion joining Horus. If you didn't already know, it's not a spoiler or anything. But yeah, Mortarion used to be a loyal Primarch. Well, they all did, didn't they? I think. Yeah, I think the seeds were sort of sown when on his home planet he was about to kill the final warlord or whatever, and the Emperor just swooped on in there and took the glory from him. I think Mortarion had a huge amount of difficulty in getting to this guy anyway. So, but ever since that, sort of Mortarion has had a little kind of dislike towards him. It's resulted in him turning heretical. The Legion organisation, I'd never collect a whole Legion of Death Guard. I just want a nice little force. But if this is your only army and you want to do that, then you've got all of it broken down in terms of drop ships, drop pods, and tally bands, and tallyman bands even, and Blightspawn colonies, Plague Surgeon Pox Corps, and all kinds of things, drone swarms, Hellbrute Talons, super heavy assets. It's got all of the organisation there for you. The colours of Contagion, I've just coloured mine in the normal sort of Death Guard green colour. Now I've painted mine in the sort of standard sort of Death Guard colours. I think I've done quite a good job. I've just got the base to do, but it's up to you. You can paint them any sort of which way you'd like to do. There's some examples in here, everything from Glooming Lords to the Weeping Legion, so you can pick whichever sort of 50 shades of green you want to paint them. Completely up to you. It shows you the map of the Milky Way, I suppose it is, and how the Cicatrix Maledictum has affected the whole galaxy, where the main worlds are, with the Allies and the Nurgle forces, Death Guard forces, in the green, or the Chaos forces, and you got the triangles where they've launched the major offensives. And then you got a chronicle of them. Covers 4 pages. This lovely bit of artwork, very sort of reminiscent of Saint Celestine, though, I must say, with this sort of golden light appearing, rather than sort of dank, sort of disgusting imagery, which there are some bits. If you look, there are some bits, tentacles coming out of people and all kinds of horrific things. This is more sort of dank stuff. Whole section about Mortarion, and then this sort of goes through all of the units, gives them a nice backstory, fleshes them out. This used to be, as well as in the old codex, it used to be with the data sheets and things, but now they have their own separate thing, and I think it works quite well for it, to be fair. Lords of Death Guard, about Typhus, the Noxious Blightbringer, the Foul Blightspawn, Biologists, Putrefiers, Plague Surgeons, Tallymen. It really does go through every single unit. Plague Marines, Blightlord Terminators, Death Shroud Terminators, Chaos Spawn, Chaos Cultists, Potswalkers, Battle Tanks, the Rhinos, Predators and the Land Raiders, the Hell Brutes, the Possessed, the Defilers, the new unit, the Myphitic Blight Haulers, my favourite unit model in the range, I think. The Fetid Bloat Drones. Even got a main section for the Plague Burst Crawlers. Plague Bearers and the Nurglings all on the same sort of image. The Beast of Nurgle, the Plague Drones, and that's it. So you get a rich backstory through all of the units, which is very descriptive. I love the Myphitic Blight Hauler. I'll leave you with this juicy thought. As it devours the filth and corpse matter carpeting the battlefield, the machine churns the accumulated foulness within its fetid innards. Rank gases and miasmal fumes build within the demon engine's gastric boilers until, with a wet rasp, it spews them forth in billowing clouds. The wretched stink of these unnatural gases is enough to render nearby enemies unconscious or send them into uncontrollable fits of vomiting. Meanwhile, the moistened matter borne upon the clouds hangs thick in the air, veiling the Myphitic Blight Hauler and any nearby units behind an obscuring curtain of filth. In this way, packs of Myphitic Blight Haulers provide rolling smog banks of revolting cover for the Death Guard advance, clogging the air with indescribable foulness from which the Plague Marines emerge with bolters blazing. Just leave you with that. Then you've got this lovely sort of diorama of the painted models. Incredible attention to detail, lots of highlighting. They're quite bright, in my opinion, the way that they've painted them. I'd much rather have sort of like a dirty, grimy sort of Death Guard than this sort of shinier, glossier kind of version of them. But there you go. And if ever a model was so guilty of this, it would probably be Mortarion, with lots of bright colours, the purples, the pinks, the blues, and then the bright greens. It's just like a rainbow of effects there, but very impressive model, and Death Shroud Terminators too. But yeah, I mean, the models in this range are fantastic. Unfortunately, Games Workshop are going down the kind of monopose route for every single one of the miniatures. It's a bit unsettling, I'd like to say. It started with the Primera Space Marines, with only these sort of arms can fit with these sort of torsos, and these legs are only with these torsos kind of mentality. But it's now progressed to Death Guard, whereby your Blightlord Terminator, it either has this weapon or another weapon. They're only compatible with that torso and leg position, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, I do like the amount of detail that they've put on the models. And then you've got some more examples of different paint schemes and the sort of pre-heresy kind of white colours. And there's the tank there, there's the little Myphitic Blight Hauler. Excellent looking tank. It's on this big base. It looks like it's a bigger base than the Fetid Bloat Drone, so I'm going to say 60mm. Multi-melter and a missile launcher as standard, and it's got some great little rules as well. It's fast and it's not affected by the damage it takes, which is great. And then it gives you some examples of how to build like the larger forces and things. This is what I meant about the monopose miniatures with the Blightlord Terminators, for instance. You've got one sword pointing out that way. Well, that model is exactly the same as that model. That model is exactly the same. So is the flail. So are those two. And those two are the only different models. You buy 2 box sets of these and they're going to look very similar. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Lovely looking miniatures, but with multiple boxes of them, you might end up with a force that looks very sort of samey. And then we get into the rules section and all the wargear and things. So their main abilities that I want to focus on is Death to the False Emperor. Every time you roll a 6 for a model with the ability in the fight phase, if it was a targeting an Imperial unit, it can make an extra attack against the same unit using the same weapon, and then they can't generate more attacks. So 6s against the Imperium, you're going to get another attack, which is excellent. Disgustingly Resilient is one of the main draws of this army. Every time a model loses a wound, you roll a 5+, and it does not lose that wound. So it's like a feel no pain, pretty much. Plague Weapon, another big draw. You can reroll rolls of a 1 for a weapon with this ability. So any weapon that has this Plague Weapon ability, reroll the 1. And Demonic Ritual, instead of moving in the movement phase, any Death Guard character at the end of their movement phase can attempt to summon a Nurgle demon unit with this ability by performing a Demonic Ritual. You roll up to 3 dice. This is your summoning roll. You can summon 1 new Nurgle demon unit with the Demonic Ritual ability to the battlefield that has a power rating equal to or less than the total result. The unit is treated as reinforcements for your army and can be placed anywhere on the battlefield that is entirely within 12 inches of the character and is more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. If the total roll is insufficient to summon any unit, the ritual fails and no new unit is summoned. If your summoning roll included any doubles, your character suffers a mortal wound. And if it contained any triples, instead suffers D3 mortal wounds. So that's a bit of a gamble. But if you want to summon some demons, you can go that way about it. So let's have a look at all these units' rules. I'll go through one by one. So HQ wise, you've got this Demon Prince of Nurgle. At the time of this review, this model, which I don't know whether it's plastic or resin. I want to say plastic, but it's quite an old model. It's sold out on GW's website at the moment. So you're probably going to have to wait to get one of these. But either way, it's fast. It's a fast thing. Movement 8 inches, weapon skill ballistic skill 2+, strength 7, toughness 6, wounds 8, attacks 4, leadership 10, and a save of 3+. It's got a Hellforged sword and a set of malefic talons. The Hellforged sword, strength of the user, which is a 7, AP -2. It's not great, but it's got damage of 3. And for some reason, it's not a plague weapon, which is odd. Neither are the malefic talons. Strength is the user, AP -2, damage 2. Each time it fights with the talons, it can make 1 additional attack with a weapon. And when it's armed with 2 sets of them, it can make 3 additional attacks. It's got its normal 5+ invulnerable save. It's got the Disgustingly Resilient and the Death to the False Emperor. It's a good choice. Its power level is 8. It's quite high. I won't go in the points because it would just take far too long in this review. So if you want to know the points and all the points for all the extra little weapons and things, go out and get this codex. Typhus, power level 9. Very decent character. It's quite slow though at movement 4, but his weapon skill, ballistic skill, it's basically the same stat line as the Lord of Contagion. He's 2 power points more. One of the reasons is because he's got a master crafted Man Reaper, whereas Lord of Contagion has to pay for the just a normal Man Reaper. And he's also got the Destroyer Hive, which I think in my review I made a bit of a mishap and said that I thought it would hit on his ballistic skill of 2+, and then everything else 5+, but it says it always hits on a 5+, regardless of any modifiers. So I'm going to take that as always 5+, not 2+, which is what his ballistic skill says, and I do question why he's even got ballistic skill. The Host of Destroyer Hive, you increase the friendly unit's toughness and strength of Poxwalkers, which is very decent. He can teleport in. He's got his 2+ and then 4+ invulnerable, and he's got the Nurgle's Gift, so 4+ enemy units suffer a mortal wound. So he's a very decent choice. Then again, so is the Lord of Contagion, because again he's got that mortal wound thing. The only thing he doesn't have is the Destroyer Hive and the, buffing up your Poxwalkers. And then we've got 4 more sort of HQ choices. You've got the Chaos Lord and Terminator Armour, Sorcerer, and Sorcerer and Terminator Armour. Sorcerer and Terminator is 8 points though, 8 power points, which means he's more than a Lord of Contagion. Basically, the Chaos Lords have almost the same stat line as Lord of Contagion, but a worse to save of 3+. They don't have as many wounds, but they have the same number of attacks and the same leadership and ballistic skill and weapon skill. And they move quicker at the 6 inches. So, with the Terminator armor, they're still moving quicker than the Cataphracti. The Sorcerers, obviously, you can have your psychic powers, and the Force Stave is a AP -1 weapon. You can give them Force Sword, which is damage D3, but AP at -3, and I'll probably go that route. And then the final HQ choice is your Malignant Plaguecaster, new little unit for the Dark Imperium box set. He's got quite a standard stat line, 3 attacks, 4 wounds, toughness 5, strength saver 3+. He's got just a normal bolt pistol, but he does have this corrupted staff, which gives him 2+ strength, so strength 6, and his damage is D3. He does have this pestilential fallout though. Whenever he manifests a psychic power with 7 or more, the nearest enemy unit within 7 inches suffers a mortal wound as well. So that's pretty good. Then we go into troops. We've got quite a few troop choices here. So we've got the main bulk, if you just want to have just mainly kind of like a Space Marine Chaos Army, which are the Plague Marines. You've got 7 of them. You can have 2 more, and then you can have 5 more, up to 10, or you can have up to 15. So you can have 15 of these Plague Marines in one sort of unit. Their power is 7. They've got all kinds of excellent weapons, including that Flail of Corruption, where you get excess damage and then that rolls over to the rest of the unit rather than being lost. Champion, you can give them a Plague Sword, you can give them a Plasma Gun, you can give them Power Fist. 2 of them can have, Blight Launchers, which are the range 24 assault 2 weapons with D3, and they're a plague weapon as well. The Plague Spewers are the 9-inch sort of heavy flamer type weapons. We've also got Maces of Contagion and Great Plague Cleavers and all kinds of things going on. So great troop choice. But if you want to have more of a Horde army, and I think Horde armies are a king in this edition from what I've heard, you can go down the Chaos Cultist route, which you're getting speed with the movement 6, but you're getting strength and toughness of only 3. And the weapons aren't amazing. They've got auto guns and auto pistols. Shotguns are nice at assault 2, and within half range you add in the strength. But for the same power, I'd probably go for the Potswalkers. Then you can at least buff them with Typhus. Although they're slower, they have the Curse of the Walking Pox. So every time an enemy infantry model is slain by a Potswalker in the fight phase, you add 1 more to the Potswalker unit, and it contains 10. You can add 10, so you got 20. You got a nice big blob of 20. Yeah, their save is 7+, but a nice big blob of 20 shuffling their way forward, hoovering up all the other infantry models and adding more to their unit, which is nice. Then you got Plague Bearers and Nurglings. They may have changed slightly. They've got their demonic save still. And they've got all these other little abilities, and then Nurglings with Mischief Makers as well. You can just set them up close to the enemy. They have their 5+ invulnerable. Then we go into Elite section. Now, there's quite a few sort of Unipose models that they've brought out. You've got the Noxious Blightbringer, which is the big model with the big bell. And the Cursed Bell is a melee weapon. Its strength is the same as the user, damage 2, it's a plague weapon. But it does have this Toxin of Misery, so they subtract 1 from their leadership. Psychers subtract 2, and he doesn't advance as well. Foul Blight Spawn, really like this model, and I like the rules for the weapon. It's basically like a Plague Spitter, assault D6, but its strength is 2d6. Its AP is a base of -3, which is fantastic. Its damage is 3 as well, which is great. It's a plague weapon, and it automatically hits its target, and you roll to determine the strength before how many shots are fired. So that is going to be great against high toughness creatures, good against tanks, good against marine equivalents, and he's got this unholy death's head grenades and revolting stench as well. The Biologist's Putrefier is going to be great with this pestilential explosion. Also, he buffs up the strength and damage of all the blight grenades from friendly units. The Plague Surgeon, these are all power level 4, by the way, can help with re-rolling rolls of a 1 for Disgustingly Resilient, which is going to help if you do get that 1 on your 5+. But the biggest buff is the Gene Seed Thief, which adds 1 to hit and wound rolls made for the weapon in the fight phase. That's the main reason you'd use him. And he's got the Bale Sword, which is like a power weapon, but a plague weapon. Then you've got the final sort of single model, which is the Tallyman. The reason why you use him is all of these elite choices, they've all got the same stat lines. But the reason why you use the Tallyman, he's got the plasma pistol, but you can get them in the normal Plague Marines, is that you can re-roll the failed to hit rolls in the fight phase within 7 inches, and that's a decent bubble. And also the 7-fold champ, which, you know, if you get a 7, you might get 7, all your command points are refunded, basically. Now we'll look at the squads of elites. So you've got the Death Shroud Terminators, fantastic looking models. Great stat line. They're slow, but that's because they're in the Cataphracti armour, so they're getting the 2+ and the 4+ invulnerable. Their weapon skill ballistics 3+. Their strength and toughness are both 5. They've got 2 wounds each, 3 attacks. The champion's got 4, leadership 8, and they've got this. They've got the Plague Spurt Gauntlet, which is like it automatically hits. It's like a little flamer on their hand with a strength 3, but it's a plague weapon, so that's going to help that strength 3. They've got the Death to the False Emperor and Disgustingly Resilient on top of all that. The Eyes of Mortarion, Death Guard characters, excluding Mortarion, within 3 inches of them, add 1 to their attacks characteristics. That would be cool if it was Mortarion. Silent Bodyguard, basically a friendly unit within 3 inches of them. If they're hit by a ranged or melee weapon, then on a 2+, one of these Death Shroud intercept them. And if they get that, then it hits them instead. Now that's fantastic. 2+ pretty much guarantees that that's going to happen. And you can do that for any Death Guard character. So these are going to be great for bundling with your Mortarion maybe, or other sort of units. And they can teleport in. Much like the Blightlord Terminators, which again can also teleport in. The main difference is you get 5 of these instead of the 3. They have the same number of wounds though. Their strength isn't 5 though, but they do have the same sort of save. They don't have as many attacks, but they do have the same save characteristic and toughness. They do have a load of options in terms of weapons. Probably one of the most popular options would be to have a Flail of Corruption and then 4 combi melters or combi plasmas, whichever way you want to run them. The main thing that they've got though is this Aura of Rust. Where each time you make a wound of a 6+ for the unit's weapons, you increase the AP of that attack by 1. AP -2 becomes AP -3. So on 6s, for all of their melee weapons, you're getting a better armour penetration, which is fantastic, and I would have thought often overlooked. Then you've got the Hell Brute. I don't know if much has changed with the Hell Brute. It can explode. I'm not really big up on Hell Brute, so I won't be able to say if anything's changed with that. Beasts of Nurgle and Possessed. Possessed is still scarily quick at movement 7 inches. They got the 5+ invulnerable save. They got the 2 wounds. The strength is 5. Horrifying mutations. The AP is -2. And your attacks, you roll a D3 when they attack. So yeah, you're probably going to get 2 attacks each really. The Fetid Bloat Drone, power level 8. Really nice looking model. Got one here. Haven't finished him yet, but this is with the dual Plague Spitters loadout. This is the one that you get in the Dark Imperium set, and the one that you buy separately looks very similar actually. They've done a really good job on both the models, but it's a fast unit. We're in fast attack now. Movement of 10 inches. Unfortunately, as its wounds get knocked down, its strength and attacks do get affected. All 3 of the weapons are quite decent. It's just with the Plague Spitter and the Flesh Mower, you're going to have to get in closer. You're going to have to be moving it 10 inches every time to try and get that. Whereas the Heavy Blight Launcher, you can sit back a little bit with that 36-inch range. And with those, you get your 3+ and your 5+ invulnerable, and your 5+ Feel No Pain, I suppose. With the Myphitic Blight Haulers, which are less power level, they're the same movement as the Bloat Drone. Their strength is the same. It's not affected by their damage. Their toughness is the same. They've got 2 wounds less, which isn't that bad, and their attacks are still the same. Their leadership's the same. Their saves are the same, and they still get their 5+ invulnerable. They're tri-tracked, so it doesn't suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. They've got the missile launchers, the multi-melters, and Bile Spur and Gnashing Maw. You can have 2 more of them in that little group, whereas the Bloat Drone can only have 1. For one choice, so that beats it as well. They've got the Putrescent Fog. You've got your Putrid Explosion, your Trilobe. You add 1 to all hit rolls made for the unit whilst it contains 3 models. And the Foul Stench as well. You subtract 1 from any hit rolls against them in the fight phase. So very decent unit, lovely looking model. Chaos Spawn. I don't know if much has changed since then. They've got this Mutated Beyond Reason, so you roll a D3 and you get these little these results. Power level 2, so they're quite cheap for a unit that has 4 wounds, strength 5, toughness 5. They're quite quick at movement 7, and they got a 5+. They're just a beast, a Chaos Spawn beast. It doesn't say they've got an invulnerable save or anything. So, Plague Drones, they do have an invulnerable save, and they have this Prehensile Proboscis, which is a strength 4, damage 2 weapon. You can get 4 additional attacks with those. They're quick. The stat line's quite decent, except you only get 1 attack, but you can bump that up with the Proboscis. Chaos Land Raider, it's a power level of a whopping 19. It's the second most expensive unit in the whole codex after Mortarion. I don't think much has changed with it. It can carry your 10 Death Guard infantry, it's got your las cannons as normal. Its wounds affects how far it can move and its ballistic skill as it knocks them off. It does have 16 wounds, it's good toughness 8, and of course it's got that lovely 2+ save, and it does explode. So when it explodes within 6 inches, you've got D6 mortal wounds. A new unit for this codex, the Plague Burst Crawler. I really like this tank. It's power level 8, so it's very cheap. It's a 3+ save, but it's got 12 wounds, the same toughness as the Land Raider, and you can fit it with the entropy cannons, the Plague Burst Mortar, which is a key weapon because it can target units that aren't visible to it. It's got a minimum range of 12 inches, but it goes all the way up to 48, and the entropy cannons are sort of shorter range las cannons in a way. It does have its 5+ invulnerable, does have its disgustingly resilient, and again, like the Land Raider, if it does explode, it'll cause those mortal wounds. Then you've got the Defiler. Again, I'm not sure if anything's changed. I don't have the Chaos Codex. Infernal Regeneration, I'm not sure whether that's still whether that's a thing with Defilers, in general. But again, when it explodes, it can afflict those mortal wounds. Chaos Predator. I don't know if anything's changed there from a normal Chaos Predator. Again, with the Chaos Rhino, I don't know if anything's different there. Heavy, that's your troop transport. And then we've got the Lord of War himself, Mortarion, the heretic Primarch. This guy is immense. Power level is 24. I'll just tell you now, he would cost you 470 points if you're playing a points battle, which is insane. I'd probably try and take him in a 2,000 point battle. I'd be that cheeky, because he's just incredible. Apart from him being a lovely looking model, that you can change either the scythe called Silence in his left hand or the right hand. You can change the lantern in his left or right hand. His stat line is superb. He's got both of those weapons I mentioned and Phosphex bombs just in case, and he's also got some Nurglings that can make their own attacks. So his movement, that's affected by the number of wounds that he's got, and he's clocking in at 18 wounds. So 2 more than a Land Raider. His movement is 12 inches, so he's very fast. One of the fastest units in here. He's got 6 attacks, and his host of plagues is a 4+. Now basically that's to do with like the mortal wounds that an enemy unit can take. The remaining wounds are 5 to 8. His movement drops to 10 inches. His attacks are 5, and host of plagues are 5+. And then the remaining wounds 1 to 4. Movement is 8, attacks 4, and host of plagues is 6+. So his weapons, the Lantern, it's an 18-inch range pistol weapon, strength 8, AP 3, damage 3. So already that start line is pretty horrific. But then, if you hit with the weapon, draw a straight line between the closest point of Mortarion's base and that of the closest model in a target unit. Make a single wound roll against the target unit, and each unit the centre of the line passes over. So if it passes over a unit, you make a wound against that unit too. So that's pretty horrific. Attendants, claws and teeth, which are the little Nurglings. Strength 2, damage 1, but they are a plague weapon, so that's going to help you out. And each time he fights, you can make additional D6 additional attacks with it too. So that's quite good. Finally, Silence, his scythe. He's got 2 profiles for this. The first one is just a reaping scythe, where its strength will be 8, its AP will be -2, and its damage will be 1. It's a plague weapon, and you make 3 hit rolls for each attacks with this weapon instead of 1, so that's pretty horrific. Or the eviscerating blow, where the strength is ×2, so I'm reading that as strength 16, AP -4, D6 damage, horrific, and again it's another plague weapon. Now his abilities, he's got this disgustingly resilient, Death to the False Emperor, Primarch of the Death Guard. You can re-roll failed hit rolls of a 1 made for friendly Death Guard units within 7 inches of Mortarion. Failed to hit rolls, that's pretty decent. Toxic Presence, Any units within 7 inches, subtract 1 from their toughness. So that's incredible. So you got him with all of your other units, and enemy units within 7 inches, -1 from the toughness, and your guys are getting toughness 5. Marine equivalent, they're dropping down to toughness 3, and your guys are having toughness 5. That's insane. The Barbarian plate, he's got this 4+ invulnerable save. So that's pretty much same as, it's supposed to be this really nice artificer armor type armor. Oh, it gives him 4+ invulnerable, much like the Cataphracti. Anyway, host of plagues. This is what I mentioned before. Enemy unit within 7 inches of the fight phase. You roll a dice. If it exceeds that value, then that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So they're just enemy units around him are just suffering these mortal wounds just from being around him, and lowering his toughness. So it's like a war of attrition. Just being around this character is wearing down and just killing your units without him actually doing much other than just being in their presence. Putrid Demise, this is a great thing. So you roll a dice before removing him from the battlefield, and on a 4+, so 50-50 chance, he explodes, showers all nearby in putrid filth and disease. Every unit within 7 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds unless it has the Nurgle keyword. So that's going to be great. He can also if all that wasn't enough, he can also manifest 2 psychic powers in each of the friendly psychic phases. So an incredible model, incredible rules. I'd love to see a battle report with him and see how effective he really is. And finally, we're at Gifts of the Plague God, which is just all the weapon profiles for both the ranged weapons and the melee weapons. Quite a lot, actually. There are specific ones for Death Guard, which you won't really find anywhere else, such as the Blight Launcher and, Mortarion's the Lantern, the Rot Hail Volley Gun. I don't know whether that's in the other Chaos Codexes. The Bile Spurt, the Blight Grenades, the Death's Head, the Destroyer Hive, the Entropy Cannons, Hyper Blight Grenades, the Plague Spitters, Plague Spewers, Plague Burst Mortars, Plague Belchers. So there are quite a few specific weapons, and the same with the melee weapons too. You've got the Flail of Corruptions, the Bale Swords, the Gnashing Mauls, the Great Plague Cleavers, the Mace of Contagion, the Man Reapers, the Plague Reapers, the Putrid Appendages and the Prehensile Proboscis. So yeah, there's a lot of Death Guard specific weapons, and then you just get some nicer dioramas of them in battle, fighting against the Primaris Space Marines there, Ultramarines. Then you've got the Signs of Mortarion, so it just gives you battle-forged armies, the Inexorable Advance and Plague Host. And then Warlord traits, Revoltingly Resilient, so you add 1 to disgustingly resilient rolls you make. Living Plague, Tainted Regeneration, Hulking Physique, Rotten Constitution, Arch Contaminator, and you've got named characters and Warlord traits. They must be given the associated Warlord trait below. So Mortarion gets Arch Contaminator, and Typhus gets Living Plague. Then you've got the stratagems, so good 2 pages worth of those. And then the Relics of Decay. So you've got everything from the Plague Bringer, which is the Plague Bringer replaces the Plague Knife, Bale Sword or Power Sword, and the abilities. It's a plague weapon, but every time you make a roll with a 6+, you get a mortal wound in addition to any other damage, so that's pretty decent. You got a supporting plate where you get a 2+. In addition, roll a dice each time the model passes a saving throw, and on a 4+, the unit that inflicted that wound suffers a mortal wound. That's pretty nasty. 50-50 chance of basically getting a mortal wound back on you for the enemy. Dolorious Knell, Fugaris Helm, increases the range of aura abilities. The Plague Skull of Glothyla, use it once per battle. It's a grenade. If it hits, roll dice for each model in the enemy unit, re-rolling results of a 1. The unit suffers a mortal wound for each roll of a 6. It's pretty horrific too. And then you've got all the psychic powers, so the Contagion Discipline, everything from Gift of Contagion, which affects the enemy units differently. On the D3 they get -1 attack, -1 strength or -1 toughness, so that has the ability of stacking with other things. Closest unit within 14 inches of the Psyker suffers a mortal wound. for each roll that exceeds its toughness characteristic. So there's some very nice, decent psychic powers there. And then points values. So you got everything from Mortarion at 470 points to Typhus at 175. Their war gear is included in that points cost, but you'll have to pay all of your ranged weapons and melee weapons and things for, you know, things like the Tallyman and the Fetid Bloat Drone and the Plague Burst Crawler. It's 110 points, and then you obviously have to add the other weapons. Blight Lord Terminators, they're 38 points per model, and the Death Shroud Terminators, 50 points per model. They can get very expensive. And then you've just got some tactical objectives there as well. So there you go. That is my full review of my codex. Sorry it's been a long time coming, but I've only had it for about a week. I'll try and get that Space Marine Codex review out as soon as possible. What do you guys think of the Death Guard Codex? Do you think it's a good codex? Do you think the rules are decent? Do you think there's gaps in the army, such as any real decent anti-tank sort of capability? That's the one thing I'd probably say. And also moving units around the board fast. I mean, I know they've got the Land Raiders and the Rhinos, but I mean any sort of like Storm Raven equivalent. That's what I want to say. To me, they seem like an army that they can take the damage and then they can ignore the wounds afterwards as well. I think they've got quite a few nice buffs and area of effect abilities, and they've just got some standout great units like that Plague Burst Crawler and Mortarion himself, and the Death Shroud Terminators. It's very likely that I've missed one or two things in here, so please do help the community out and put it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.